Check out our catch secrets from the Disney Pixar Finding Series, Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. Let's dive in. Finding Nemo made an incredible splash when it arrived in theaters in 2003, setting box office records and collecting countless accolades. Naturally, Pixar's hidden a bunch of secrets and Easter eggs in its depths. Let's dive in. It all began with a pitch, and apparently director Andrew Stanton's was intense. He spent an hour presenting his fishtail to the head of Pixar, John Lasseter. He poured his heart out with elaborate visual aids and even took on character voices in his telling of the story. After the performance of a lifetime, he asked Lasseter what he thought, and Lasseter told him, "You had me at fish." Well, it seemed his hard work paid off anyway. His voice can be heard in the movie as every seagull who yells, "Mine?" Moreover, he's also the voice of the unmistakable righteous sea turtle Crush. Like Monsters, Inc. story supervisor Bob Peterson before him, Stanton nailed the temp track, and his surfer drawl proved popular in test screenings. Also, rumor has it that his laid-back delivery was recorded while he was laid back on the couch in his office. Don't let that story fool you. Stanton really had his work cut out for him, and there were some tense situations brought about in the casting department. Did you know that the voice of Nemo's dad, Marlin, had to be recast? The original voice was performed by revered actor William H. Macy. After Disney's board of directors watched an early cut with his voice, then Disney CEO Michael Eisner shared some insulting insights, which led to Stanton replacing Macy with another esteemed performer, Albert Brooks. In the book Disney War by James B. Stewart, Eisner was quoted as saying of the Pixar team in their movie, "Of course they think it's great, trust me, it's not." Well, Eisner wound up eating his own words as Finding Nemo garnered the best reviews Pixar ever had and became the highest-grossing animated film of all time. Needless to say, the shareholders lost their faith in Eisner. This misstep was another in a list that led him to leaving his position as CEO in 2005. Enough with the business suits, let's slip into something a little more fun, like a scuba suit. Well, fun for humans, not for the fish in the scene. This is the moment that Nemo is taken from his dad by the scuba diving dentist, voiced by Aussie acting legend Bill Hunter. As he begs Nemo and heads back to the boat, his fellow scuba friend takes a picture with their underwater camera. Did you happen to notice the model number on that Seameister? A-113. A113, the Cal Arts Classroom Easter egg. Nemo's dad Marlin is no stranger to tragedy. The reason for his neurotic nature is because he lost his wife Coral, as well as their nest of fish eggs to a hungry barracuda. All that remained was the one tiny scarred egg holding the lucky-finned Nemo. We see this event play out in the opening minutes of the movie, but did you know that Andrew Stanton originally planned to reveal the sad past with gradual flashbacks throughout the film? After a few test screenings, it made more sense to let the whole scene play out up front, because otherwise Marlin came off as too much of a worrywart. With that scene at the beginning, audiences had more sympathy for Marlin and a better understanding of why he's the world's least funny clownfish. Of course, if there's anyone up to the task of making an unfunny clownfish funny, it's actor, comedian, and filmmaker Albert Brooks. In fact, that concept was what appealed to him the most about the character. Marlin is continuously challenged by other sea life to tell funny jokes, a challenge he normally bombs, but not Brooks. According to details in the DVD extras for Finding Nemo, Albert spent a lot of time in the voice booth butchering jokes, and in doing so, he had the sound technicians in stitches. Stanton said, "We have about an hour of audio from Albert telling a series of jokes really badly. They didn't make any sense, but that was the part that was funny." Albert Brooks isn't alone in bringing the funny. Along for the ride is actor, comedian, and talk show host Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen plays Dory, a regal blue tang with an unfortunate memory problem. Did you know that Dory wasn't originally conceived as a female role? In fact, no less than the likes of Johnny Depp, Robin Williams, and Jim Carrey were being considered for the role. But Stanton wrote the script while listening to his wife watch the Ellen DeGeneres show in the background. Hearing her voice and the stream of consciousness pattern convinced him that she was the right person for the role. Not everyone was on board. DeGeneres could bring the funny, sure, but Dory also had some heavier scenes, and the filmmakers weren't convinced Ellen was up to the challenge. Her most dramatic scene comes when she begs Marlin not to leave. The recording team decided to have Ellen record that scene at the end of the day, at which point they would ask her to take the recording home so she could work on her performance. Ellen agreed, but her performance in that first test proved so good that apart from some customary pickups, it remained in the final film. Well, that's one crisis averted. Of course, Marlin and Dory face many other challenges in their search for Nemo, starting with one of the most fearsome creatures of the deep, a great white shark. Luckily, this shark named Bruce is working a support system to break the stigma and prove that sharks and smaller fish can be friends. Did you know that Bruce is named after the shark in Steven Spielberg's trailblazing blockbuster Jaws? Not the monster, of course. If that were the shark's name in the movie, it probably would have brought in significantly less ticket sales. No, Bruce was the name Spielberg gave the mechanical model of the shark. He named it after his lawyer, Bruce Raymer. Hopefully he was just poking fun, as the shark model was infamous for not working well at all. There's actually a deeper cut regarding Bruce. Have a listen to his Aussie dialect. That's no accident either. This is a little wink to Monty Python's Flying Circus in one of their most memorable sketches known as the Bruce Sketch, where everyone in the philosophy department of the University of Woolloomooloo is named Bruce. Absurd? Yes, but no more absurd than a shark support group. Still, it seems Bruce is also working through some childhood trauma of his own. Once he realizes Marlin is searching for his lost son, he bursts into tears, crying, "I never knew my father." Turns out this is pretty likely for most sharks. In reality, male sharks leave after mating with their female counterparts. This is one oceanic fun fact that gives credence to the movie, but there are other truths of the ocean that need to be bent a little for the sake of the story. One big one has to do with Marlin himself. You see, clownfish are known as protandrous hermaphrodites. This means that a male clownfish has the ability to change its gender to female in order to help maintain the species. With that in mind, in the real world, after the loss of coral, Marlin would have become Nemo's mother. That sure would have made for a different movie, perhaps a different voice too. The filmmakers also took some artistic license in another department, and that's the design of the characters' faces. Did you know that the animators went with a land-dwelling animal as a reference for the fish's expressions? I mean, what could be more endearing to human audiences than man's best friend, the canine? That's right, they incorporated dogs' facial expressions into their fish models. This type of creativity didn't always sit well with some of the more technical-minded specialists brought in to advise the creative team. According to one animator, a certain consultant would push back on the biological inaccuracies of the fish designs. In defense of their creative flourish, the animator argued, "Well, in real life, they don't talk either." Haha, touché. As you can tell, balancing the world of the animated film with real-world details was quite the tightrope walk for the animators. It was still important for the underwater world to feel authentic, which is why the production crew wound up spending time in the water themselves. Did you know that the key members of the team had to become scuba certified and study the Great Barrier Reef firsthand? There were also visits to aquariums and in-house lectures from fish specialists known as ichthyologists. The animators even developed a software that made the surface of the water so lifelike they actually had to make the water look more fake for the final product. Another system was invented for the jellyfish sequence, a shading process called transblurrency, which created that cool frosted but see-through effect. Still, there's one particular software familiar to you movielogic viewers that was also utilized to animate the waving strands of the anemones. Remember what it's called? We talked about it in our Monsters, Inc. video regarding Sully's millions of strands of fur. Come on, can't quite put your finger on it? You could in its Easter egg form because it showed up on the keypad for the door track. There it is, Fizz-Tea. Talk about a useful resource. Speaking of, Marlin and Dory catch a break when they happen upon a school of knowledgeable, not to mention playful, moonfish. The fish help guide Marlin and Dory in the direction of Sydney, Australia, after a short game of charades. You see, when Nemo was taken topside, the dentist accidentally dropped his scuba mask into the ocean, and on it he had written his address, which Dory could read, surprisingly, P. Sherman, 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney. And the duo have been trying to find that location ever since. Oh, did you happen to recognize the voice of the moonfish? That's right, Pixar regular John Ratzenberger is finally making himself heard in this movie. Anyway, during the game, the moonfish take the form of an old ship and sing a couple of bars of a song as one witty fish walks the plank. Fans of old Disney movies will recognize the tune as Whale of a Tale, sung by acting great Kirk Douglas in the 1954 Disney movie 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. What's more, the sub's captain, played by the legendary James Mason, was named Nemo. Nemo, of course! All this time while Marlin is trying to find him, Nemo has been dumped into an aquarium. Well, not so much an aquarium as a fish tank in a dentist's office. He soon learns he's not alone and that he's the latest addition to the motley crew of the sea life collected by the dentist. There's Bubbles, a yellow tang who's, well, crazy about bubbles. I'd say literally. He's voiced by character actor Stephen Root of Office Space, Dodgeball, and HBO's Barry. Next up is Peach, an ochre starfish, voiced by West Wing and I, Tonya's Allison Janney. She's the lookout of the group. Bloat, performed by Brad Garrett of Everybody Loves Raymond and Ratatouille fame, is the porcupine fish with a little bit of an anger issue. Vicki Lewis plays Deb and her, sister, Flo? Deb and Flo, like the tides ebb and flow. Get it? Anyway, she's a damselfish. We've also got Jacques, performed by Joe Ranft, who actually has a number of Disney writing credits under his belt, like The Lion King, Toy Story, and Cars, to name just a few. Oh, and he's the cleaner shrimp. Last but not least, we have Gil, a Moorish idol, voiced by the intense Willem Dafoe. An interesting thing about the Moorish idols, they don't take to captivity well, which is perfect for Gil's character, as he's always trying to find a means of escape, and why he so quickly takes Nemo under his wing, Finn. Speaking of wings, these fishy friends have an unlikely pal of the feathered persuasion, Nigel, voiced by Oscar winner Jeffrey Rush, most famously known as Barbossa from the Pirates of the Caribbean series. Nigel is their link to the outside world and plays a crucial role in trying to reunite Nemo with Marlin. Still, there's one more familiar face in the dentist's office, but blink and you might miss him. As Nemo tries to take in his new surroundings for the first time, he gets a look at the dentist's waiting room and he sees a little toy chest overstuffed with toys. Does anyone on the ground look familiar? It's a Buzz Lightyear action figure. Obviously not the Buzz Lightyear, no, he's still safe and sound back in Andy's room. The dentist's office proves to be a great place for spotting Easter eggs. In fact, just before Nemo sees the toy chest, he looks over to the receptionist window. Quick, pause right there. Take a look at the dentist certificates on the wall. Did you know that Pixar actually has a school of dentistry? Don't worry, they don't. But according to the big certificate next to the window, that's where our dentist got his degree, Pixar University's School of Dentistry. Later in the film, a poor kid waits in horror as he watches what he thinks is some other poor kid's painful and violent dental checkup. But take a look at what he's reading. Does it look familiar? It's a Mr. Incredible comic book. Of course, Mr. Incredible wouldn't come out for another year, making this another one of Pixar's plug Easter eggs. Oh, we're not done with the dentist's office yet. There are a couple other details worth mentioning about the dentist himself. First, Peach has got his schedule all figured out. At one point, she watches the door and announces 9 o'clock and cue dentist. When he enters, he says, "Hello, Barbara, sorry I'm late." So obviously the dentist comes in at 9 on the regs, which means whatever time he's supposed to be in, he's always late. Also, when we first see the dentist outside of his scuba gear, he's doing a root canal. At one point, he takes a break from his patient to go see a man about a wallaby, which must be the Aussie version of seeing a man about a horse, dog, duck, or whatever other animal you like for this figure of speech. The point is, it means he's going to the bathroom. The real point is, when he returns, we see him finish the zip and haphazardly brush his hands together. He did not wash his hands. I'm just saying, these are interesting character choices, but if your current dentist has this guy's knack for hygiene and timeliness, I'd find myself another dentist. One more fun fact, he takes care of a patient he calls Davy Reynolds. This is a reference to David Reynolds, who just so happens to be one of Finding Nemo's screenwriters. Every screenwriter needs a good ticking clock, a mechanism that heightens the urgency and therefore the drama of the situation. And that clock is the dentist's niece, Darla. Darla is an unwitting antagonist in the movie. Her uncle plans to gift Nemo to her at her next visit. The problem is she doesn't know how to take care of a pet and wound up killing her first pet fish, Chuckles. Yeah, Nemo needs to get out of there before she shows up. By the way, the name Darla is also not an accident. Darla K. Anderson is the name of a Pixar producer who would play pranks on director Andrew Stanton. Naming the little terror in Finding Nemo after her is his sweet revenge. Poor Darla's name might live on in infamy, but one name in the film will live on in honor for generations. After you read the end, the scene quickly fades to black for a dedication screen for Glenn McQueen, 1960 to 2002. Glenn McQueen was an animator on every Pixar movie from Toy Story on through to Monsters, Inc. It's an incredible honor to have a film dedicated in your memory. But how about a trademark character? That's right, Lightning McQueen is named after Glenn, thanks to his colleagues who would go on to create Pixar's Cars. Cars, that's right! There's one more Pixar trademark Easter egg. Keep your finger on that pause button, this one zooms by fast, literally. After Nemo's initiation, Gil presents his latest plan for getting the whole tank of sea life out into the bay. Part of the plan requires the team to roll out of the window, each in their own individual baggies. As we witness his vision of how the plan plays out, when the baggie is in the bushes, a yellow streak zooms past on the road ahead. Pause right now. That streak is none other than the Pizza Planet delivery truck from Toy Story. Man, that chain is everywhere. Make sure you just keep swimming. And don't forget to subscribe to Movielogic for more daily movie facts, trivia, and Easter eggs. Marlin and Nemo are back for more underwater adventures, and this time they're finding Dory. As always, there's an ocean of Easter eggs and hidden secrets to explore. Let's jump in. The movie starts a year after the events of Finding Nemo, but did you know that there was a 13-year gap between the two movies? In that time, talk show host and comedian Ellen DeGeneres rallied hard for another installment featuring her character, the friendly and forgetful blue tang Dory. Well, she got her wish. Not only did Pixar produce a sequel, but the story centers around her character. Another added bonus, the studio allowed Ellen to reveal the world premiere of the movie trailer on her daytime talk show. This time around, Dory is on a quest to find her parents, a journey she began way before bumping into Marlin, and sorta, well, forgot about. You'll notice that her memory is actually getting a little better these days, at least where Marlin and Nemo are concerned. She doesn't have to be corrected by Marlin anymore when it comes to Nemo's name, and she even calls Marlin by name as well. Progress, am I right? As for her parents, Dory's search was originally going to find her, Nemo, and Marlin traveling to an aquatic park like SeaWorld. But the tides changed in the real world thanks to a shocking documentary that came out the same year. Blackfish was a startling film that opened audiences' eyes to the unethical and life-threatening conditions of keeping large marine animals in captivity. After the Pixar crew attended a special screening, they quickly relocated Finding Dory's setting to the Marine Life Institute, a sort of aquatic study center that cares for the ecosystem and allows for the comings, rehabilitation, and goings of its marine life. The filmmakers wanted to make sure that when audiences looked back at Finding Dory 50 years after its release, it wouldn't be regarded as Pixar's Song of the South. Song of the South was a 1946 Disney film that hasn't aged well. Though it won an Academy Award for its original song Zippity Doo-Dah, over the years its depiction of African Americans and plantation life has come to be considered racist, placing the film on the wrong side of history with regard to human rights. Obviously, Pixar hopes to stay on the right side of history concerning animal rights. Dory happens to find one sea creature that wants to exercise his right to remain in captivity, Hank the octopus. Well, septopus, really. The story goes that he lost a tentacle in an accident involving grabby kids. But did you know that in reality the animators created his body separate from his limbs? When they combined the elements, they realized they couldn't fit an eighth tentacle without a lot of extra work, so they just left it off. It's almost as if history was repeating itself. Back in 1955, It Came From Beneath the Sea wowed audiences with its giant octopus, created by stop-motion special effects legend Ray Harryhausen. Due to practical and budgetary limitations, his octopus only had 6 arms. Hank is portrayed with grumpy gusto by Ed O'Neill of Married with Children and Modern Family fame. He's on a search of his own, scouring the Institute's quarantine for an orange tag that will be his ticket to a Cincinnati aquarium and the sweet life of solitude. Did you know that some of Hank's super sneaky abilities aren't creative license, but characteristic of a real-life octopus? Octopuses, yes, that is the proper English plural of octopus, are highly intelligent animals and escape artists that can change their color and shape to either escape predators or scare them off by mimicking other dangerous animals. This is what makes it so hard to keep them in captivity. Cunning, right? Turns out Ed O'Neill has a cunning streak of his own. He and director Andrew Stanton decided to capitalize on Hank's shape-shifting abilities for grins and giggles. The two are featured in a short video where they reveal that Hank is actually the oldest and most coveted Easter egg ever created by Pixar, claiming he's even hiding in their first feature animated film, Toy Story. It bears mentioning that the video was released on April 1st, 2016. So don't let them fool you. Dory certainly gets fooled by a loudspeaker which sets in motion her rescue and quarantine at the Institute. The voice over the system is no secret. She introduces herself as Sigourney Weaver. Yes, the Sigourney Weaver, from both the Alien and Ghostbusters series. This actually marks her second Pixar film. You may remember her voice aboard the Axiom in WALL-E. As exciting as it is for American audiences to hear her voice, did you know that internationally the voice and name were changed to well-known figures of the region? For instance, in the Spanish version distributed in Mexico, Weaver was replaced by Dr. Rodolfo Neri Vela, a scientist and astronaut who worked with NASA. Wow, talk about a flex. In Sweden, the voice was done by animal expert Jonas Wallström. Jonas happens to own the aquarium at Skansen, Stockholm's famous outdoor zoo. He also owns a sushi restaurant. From ocean to plate, I guess. Moving on. In Germany, the intercom voice is narrated by former world-class swimmer Franziska von Almsick. And over at the boot of Italy, TV personality Licia Colò, famous for hosting animal and nature shows, received the honor. I wonder if Licia's expertise had her scratching her head regarding some of the artistic license taken in the movie, especially where characteristics of the sea life are concerned. Let's start with the biggest, most obvious one right off the bat, Dory's memory. Did you know that Dory's short-term memory was inspired by the belief that goldfish only have a 3-second memory? It makes for an interesting character trait and plot device, sure, but number one, it's kinda strange, giving her a trait from a different kind of fish, and two, there's no credence to this fact whatsoever. It's just one of those legends that has endured for generations all over the world. In actuality, scientists have concluded that goldfish are surprisingly intelligent fish and have memories that span months to even years. What's more interesting, the data has been around to support these findings since as early as the 1950s. Still, Dory's triumph over her condition makes for a story that tugs at the heartstrings, doesn't it? You know what? Let me follow this tangent for a minute. Dory has short-term memory loss. Nemo has an underdeveloped fin. Destiny, Dory's whale shark friend, voiced by the hilarious Caitlin Olsen, is extremely nearsighted. The also hilarious Ty Burrell plays Destiny's neighbor Bailey, who's a beluga whale with a head injury. And Becky the loon, who helps Marlin and Nemo get into the institute, seems to have a few social and cognitive delays. The movie is set at an aquatic center focused on rehabilitation, and all these animals overcome their respective challenges for the greater good of their fellow fish. Tugs at the heartstrings? Heck yeah! Like a kite in a tornado. But I digress. As I was saying before, there's another animal in Finding Dory whose character design underwent a slight artistic adjustment or two. In an earlier sequence in the movie, Marlin, Nemo, and Dory arrive in Morro Bay after a bodacious current ride with everyone's favorite sea turtles, Crush and Squirt. Failing to heed the rest of the local sea life's warnings, they find themselves face to face with a giant squid. We first see the squid's huge eye, followed by its beak. Take a look at that beak for a second. Sure, there's nothing that looks abnormal about it, but experts would tell you that the beak is upside down, as giant squids have an underbite, not an overbite. However, maybe the squid itself is an Easter egg. As it turns out, it's not the only giant squid in a Disney movie to have this particular characteristic. Check out the squid in Disney's 1954 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and you'll see that Captain Nemo and his men square off with a giant squid that has the same overbite. Also, check out the way the squid lights up, all terrifyingly beautiful, like it's from planet Pandora in Avatar. Believe it or not, this may also be inaccurate. Don't get me wrong, squids can change color like our dear friend Hank, but they don't have photophores, the light-producing organs that would give them the ability to light up like a Christmas tree. Nah, they more than likely change between shades of red and white, but when light does hit them, they give off a gold or silver sheen. A fact realized thanks to a filmed expedition in 2013 by Dr. Tsunemi Kubodera. Ooh, shiny. Speaking of, what could be shinier than red-hot lava? I know, it's a stretch, but hey, I had to segue this next Easter egg somehow. When Dory meets Hank in quarantine, pay special attention to the wider shots as Hank tries to convince Dory to give him her tag. Be on the lookout for a mini fridge with a magnet on it that says UKU. Look closely and you'll see a volcano on the magnet. This little Easter egg is referencing a sweet Pixar short called Lava, about a volcano who sings a song of love in the hopes of one day having someone to share it with. What does UKU stand for? Well, the entire story is sung, and the singers are accompanied by ukulele music. The first 3 letters of ukulele are UKU, which is the name of the first volcano, Yuku. Can you guess the name of his true love? You got it, Lele. Eventually, Dory does wind up giving Hank her tag. And when she does, you might need a magnifying glass to catch this super tough Easter egg. You can see it best in the wide shot when Hank takes the lid off the plastic cup while hanging over the open ocean exhibit. You're looking for a bulletin board on the right side of the frame, and on it is a calendar which reads Wall E. It's a little tip of the hubcap hat to everyone's favorite waste allocation load lifter. From one hunk of metal to another, let's hitch a ride on the truck bound for the Cincinnati Aquarium. When Hank slaps down on the windshield, watch closely as the front of the truck comes to a screeching halt. Did you happen to get that license plate number? CALA113? CAL as in Cal Arts, A113 as in the Pixar animator's classroom number, and beloved Easter egg. Always a good feeling finding that one. Dory decides the best path between land and water is a straight jump off a hill. So she has Hank gun it off the edge, and we're treated to a gravity-slowed ballet of exotic fish raining into the bay as the truck careens into the ocean. During this slow-motion sequence, pay close attention to the police force on the bridge, especially the mustachioed aviator-wearing cop standing with his hands on his hips. This one's a little naughty, not because of his hips, no, because of his lips. See if you can guess what he's saying. The shot cuts away before the final word, but it looks like he's mouthing, "What the fish?" I'm sure that's it. I'm sure he said fish. You know, there are a few more fish worth mentioning. In fact, a whole crew from Finding Nemo that, until the very, very end of the movie, go unaccounted for. Talking about the gang from the dentist's fish tank. If you recall, the last time we saw them, they had implemented Gil's escape plan and found themselves safely in the ocean, but still in their plastic baggies. Well, it appears not much has changed as they float past the sea lions Fluke and Rudder. Their bags are filthy thanks to the passage of time. All the bags, that is, except for Jacques. Sweet touch, Pixar. Rumor has it that if there's another film in the Finding series on its way, the story might just revolve around saving these guys. If we're on a 13-year timetable, expect the next one in just a few short years. Make sure you subscribe to Movielogic for more daily movie facts, trivia, and Easter eggs. Pixar's Finding Dory takes us back into the deep blue for another search and rescue adventure, and it's teeming with hidden secrets and Easter eggs. Let's catch the current and take a ride. If you saw our video on Finding Nemo, you might remember director Andrew Stanton originally wanted to reveal the opening scene of that movie as a series of flashbacks throughout. In the end, it didn't really serve the story. But thanks to Dory's memory issues, a character flaw became a storyteller's blessing. This time, the flashback structure could be used when something on Dory's quest to find her parents sparks a memory from her past. The movie still opens a long time ago. Baby Dory is being taught special tricks and strategies by her parents to help deal with her memory condition. Dory's parents are Jenny and Charlie, voiced by Diane Keaton and Eugene Levy. Check out the fun coloring on Charlie. It makes him look like he's got a receding hairline. Young Dory was voiced by Sloane Murray, who was 7 years old at the time the movie was produced. Of course, we shift quickly to full-grown Dory, voiced by Ellen DeGeneres, as she wanders the ocean for years looking for her parents. Eventually, she bumps into Marlin, just like in Finding Nemo, only this time from Dory's perspective. Take a look at the same scene in both movies, and you'll notice some interesting design differences between the two. This is thanks to the technological improvements during the 13-year gap between the two films. Did you know that 13-year gap caused the producers to recast a key character in the movie? In 2003, Alexander Gould was 9 years old when he voiced the part of Nemo. Naturally, puberty ran its course during the 13 years between the two films, and Gould could no longer sound like the cute little forlorn clownfish we all know and love. The part of Nemo this time around is played by Hayden Rollins, also 9 at the time of recording. It's not to say Gould was left high and dry. Gould is still in Finding Dory, thanks to a sneaky voice cameo as Carl, the passenger in the Marine Institute truck. The truck in question also has another Easter egg hidden in the cabin. You'll see it best when the truck is commandeered by Hank, the 7-tentacled octopus, voiced by Ed O'Neill. Hank originally wanted to take the truck, which is headed to an aquarium in Cincinnati, but his plans change after meeting Dory. Anyway, when Hank is behind the driver's seat, look closely when he honks the horn, and you'll see a little circle with a star in the middle of the wheel. If it weren't monochrome, it would be red, yellow, and blue, because that's the Luxo Junior Ball. Of course, there's no truck more famous in the Pixar universe than the Pizza Planet delivery truck from Toy Story. Seems there's no place this truck can't reach, including the ocean floor. Not gonna lie, this one's a toughie. After Dory sparks a flashback that reminds her that her parents' names are Jenny and Charlie, she speeds off yelling their names. In the shot that pans right with Dory in the distance followed by Marlin and Nemo, pause quickly and really study the junk on the seafloor. It's pretty well covered in the darkness, but that moss-covered rocket sits atop a sunken pizza delivery truck. You want another auto-based Easter egg? This one's a real deep cut. In the beginning of the movie, we watch Dory age in a montage as she looks for her parents. At one point, you can see her talking to a bunch of silver fish with Volkswagen Beetle in the background. That VW Bug is a wink at an old Disney movie, 1980's Herbie Goes Bananas, in which Herbie the Love Bug was played by multiple VW vehicles. One such vehicle was dumped in the ocean and never retrieved. Hank digs the ride. He sits in the Beetle during the end credits. Actually, there's something familiar about this. Fans of Adult Swim might recognize Hank's pose as an homage to the crass, adult animated series Squidbillies, about a dysfunctional family of hillbilly squids. In the opening of the show, Early Kyler sits in his pickup, tentacle leaning out the open window while he adjusts the rearview mirror, much like Hank is doing right here. Hank's not the only fun and interesting sea creature Dory meets. When she finally gets to the open ocean exhibit and her old home, she comes across a crab named Bill and his wife. Notice anything unusual about Bill's voice? It's artificially pitched up. but the inflection and delivery should be all too familiar because Bill is voiced by Pixar regular John Ratzenberger. In their search for Dory, Marlin and Nemo happen to meet some other fun and interesting marine life as well. Over at the tidal pool, they come across a rather talkative clam, starved for some company. Does that voice sound familiar to you? You heard it once already before. Stan from the first couple of fish that Baby Dory asks for help? No, that's actually SNL alum Bill Hader, along with fellow alum Kate McKinnon. Not a bad try though. Try again. Sigourney Weaver? Come on, really? I mean, she's good, but she's not that good. I'll give you a hint. He really crushes in this one scene. Yeah, okay, that was a gimme. The clam is also the voice of Crush, who happens to be director Andrew Stanton. By the way, did you happen to catch his little joke? When Marlin says he's happy to see the clam responds in kind, "I'm happy to see you." Get it? As in happy as a clam? Is this thing on? By the way, did you know that clams have several hundred little pinhole eyes called hyaline organs? That's a little bonus aquatic fun fact for you. Anyway, before the clam, Marlin and Nemo meet a couple of ferociously lazy sea lions, Rudder and Fluke, played by Idris Elba and Dominic West. Reunited, and it feels so good. Oh, sorry, I'm just a big fan of HBO's The Wire, which features both actors. West as Jimmy McNulty and Idris Elba as Russell Stringer Bell. Oh, it gets better. These two possess two sides of a most coveted Pixar Easter egg. Hit that pause button when they show the clownfish their tail tags. Rudder says A1 and Flukes says 13. Put them together. Yeah, you know what you got, A113. The Cal Arts classroom where founding Pixar animators learned their trade. Fluke and Rudder have a special spot staked outside the institute where they can lay out in the sun and live their best lives. That is, so long as another sea lion, Gerald, doesn't try to steal their small patch of rock. There are a couple of interesting connections to Gerald, both name-based. Gerald shares the same name as another minor character in this very same universe, the pelican who tried and failed the Marlin and Dory back in Sydney, Australia before Nigel, played by Jeffrey Rush, intervened. For the second connection, we need to travel more inland to the quasi-fictional town of Springfield. There we meet a little pointy-haired baby with an oral fixation that spans decades. I'm talking about baby Maggie Simpson from the Fox family sitcom The Simpsons. Fans will remember that Maggie has an arch-nemesis named Baby Gerald Sampson, who came on the scene in The Simpsons' 100th episode. Baby Gerald and sea lion Gerald share a common physical feature, a bushy black unibrow. Still not convinced there's a connection? How about this? Many artists from The Simpsons moved on to work at Pixar. One such employee is renowned Pixar director Brad Bird. Brad's not the only bird of note for our intents and purposes. Fluke and Rudder aid Marlin and Nemo in their search for Dory by calling upon Becky. Becky is a loon, both figuratively and literally, and she does her best to help Marlin and Nemo get where they're going around the Institute with mixed results. After gathering Marlin and Nemo in a bucket, she flies them inside the Aquatic Institute but accidentally strands them in a tree. By the way, take a look at that bucket real quick. Sure, it has its fill of barnacles, but it's a green bucket, not unlike the bucket Sasuke put Ponyo in after rescuing her from the glass jar in Hayao Miyazaki's animated masterpiece Ponyo. Turns out Becky is a popcorn fiend. Can you blame her? Here she is pecking away with a bunch of pigeons who have also a hearty appetite. Do the pigeons look familiar at all? They're the same character build as the pigeon who takes a liking to Mr. Potato, well, technically Tortilla Head in Toy Story 3. Want some more obvious Pixar cameos? I gotcha. While in quarantine, poor Dory goes through the short but rather terrifying process of being tagged. Just like our sea lion friends. If that wasn't scary enough, take a look at the workspace just behind her after she gets tagged. There's a picture of a familiar fish-destroying terror on the wall. That's right, it's the dentist's niece Darla from Finding Nemo. Like Nemo and Marlin, Dory finds herself in a bucket of fish meant to be food for another animal at the Institute, Destiny the whale shark, voiced by comedian Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. As it turns out, Destiny is a long-lost pipe pal from when Dory was younger. But back up a bit to the part where Dory is first dumped into Destiny's tank. She bumps into the glass, and on the other side is a crowd of kiddos looking in. Scan that group, and you might just find another little Pixar friend, Riley from Inside Out. Dory also meets Destiny's aquarium friend, Bailey, a beluga whale in rehabilitation for faulty sonar. Bailey is voiced by Ty Burrell, who's probably best known for playing magical realtor dad Phil Dunphy on NBC's hit sitcom Modern Family. Encouraged by Dory and Destiny, Bailey's sonar returns, and just in time, too. As Dory navigates the pipes to get back to quarantine, Bailey picks up on another presence in there with her. This sequence is a wink at another claustrophobic scene from the Ridley Scott chiller Alien, in which Tom Skerritt's Dallas desperately tries to escape a killer alien with the help of his shipmate's radar system. Of course, there's another huge alien connection with regard to Finding Dory, and that's Sigourney Weaver, the narrator of the Aquatic Institute. Alien was the first film that launched her to stardom, thanks to her strong and riveting portrayal of Lieutenant Ellen Ripley. So is it just me, or did the crew in Alien seem like there were less astronauts and more like space truckers? Remember the truck Hank hijacked? Well, before he takes over control, have a look at the right hand of the driver, and you'll find a Band-Aid with a picture of another famous Pixar vehicle, Lightning McQueen. It's kinda hard to tell what skin of McQueen to figure out which specific Cars movie they're referencing, but with Cars 3 being released the following year, we think this possibly could have been one of Pixar's plug Easter eggs. I hope you liked this video and found some awesome details you hadn't seen before in Disney Pixar's Finding Series. Make sure you subscribe to Movie Logic for more daily movie facts, trivia, and Easter eggs.